Batman, the animated series, is often considered one of the greatest animated television shows of all time. The combination of mature writing, brilliant voice acting, and incredible soundtrack make it a masterful experience for any Batman fan. Because it had massive success, it was followed by another series called The New Batman Adventures. It featured newer animation and more emphasis on Batman's supporting cast. For example, we finally get to see Nightwing and the introduction of Tim Drake. Now, this series was continued with something called Batman Beyond. It's set about 50 years in the future. Bruce Wayne is now retired and Batman himself hasn't been around for a very long time. Taking the helm of Batman is a teenager by the name of Terry McGinnis. Despite this being 50 years in the future, we get to see some of the older Batman villains. Mr. Freeze and Bane make appearances in the real world, and Terry even fights the Riddler, Killer Croc, and Two-Face all in the form of training robots. But the one guy who never makes an appearance is the Joker. In 2000, Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker was released. It's a movie that touches on why the Joker isn't in Batman Beyond and why Bruce Wayne ultimately gave up being Batman. It's an excellent movie with more dark and mature writing, which makes for an amazing adventure. I personally love it and would consider it one of the best animated DC movies ever made. Having said all of that, this movie got a video game that was released on the PlayStation 1 and the Nintendo 64. If you're watching this, you probably already know that this game blows more than Red Tornado trying to win a race against the Flash. So you might ask, how did they manage to fuck this up? The answer is simple. They gave it to these assholes. If you don't remember who they are, here's a little refresher. That's right, the people who ported Daikatana to the 64 also developed this. Knowing that, there's not much else to say. It's time we start playing Return of the Joker for the Nintendo 64. The game follows the storyline of the movie closely enough. However, the real problems with this game lie in how it's played. It plays like absolute shit! The first thing you're gonna notice is that Terry is jittery as fuck. He must have snorted a line of coke before this mission. Look at him. And if that's not enough, look at how fast he can move. Also, at the beginning of each level, you're given a choice between what suit you take. They have different stats. One has better defense, another has better attack. You get it. But what makes choosing one absolutely pointless is the fact that you can collect the damn things in the level. And what's more, just mere seconds after choosing a suit in the selection screen of the first level, you encounter a box that has another suit. So what's the point in choosing if you're gonna have them all anyways? That's pretty bullshit, but I have barely scratched the surface of how pointless some of the mechanics are in this game. For example, there are keys that you need to advance in the levels. But here's the kicker. The keys are always right next to the doors you have to open. Sometimes the enemies you're fighting drop keys, but it's still always right next to the door you have to open. So what the hell is the point of having a key? Why not just have the doors open automatically after I've beaten an enemy? Next up, there's another testament to how grossly incompetent Kemco is. I'm going to show you some cutscenes from this game. I want you to see if there's anything wrong with them. First off, you gotta love how Kemco didn't even try to animate everything or even use clips from the movie. It's like they said,
if you don't like the movie, I've got slides.
And I'm gonna point out the obvious here, but the dialogue in those cutscenes is fast as fuck. I can't read that shit fast enough before it changes. Did anyone even test this garbage? Fuck! Another thing that plagues this game is bullshit level design. You have rooms that lead to boxes which contain absolutely nothing. Then there's parts like these where you have to jump over high obstacles. You might be asking, what's wrong with this? Well, Terry can't fucking move while he jumps. You always have to get a running head start before you can jump, and that leads to this. And if that wasn't bad enough, Right after that, you have to clear these steam obstacles. It doesn't get that bad until you're stuck and can't really move, so you either take a hit here, or you can fidget with the controls to the point where you can barely clear it. All of that brings me to my main point about why this game is shit. Terry's kicks and punches are so powerful, some enemies can get knocked out in one hit. Then there's the fact that sometimes the power of the enemies is extremely inconsistent. Here, I get knocked the fuck out, but here, I beat the guy easily. What can really fuck you up is the fact that you can't move while you're fighting. Your punches and kicks never extend outwards enough, so the enemies are running behind you and hurting you while you look like a high-tech crack addict. I got to a part where I was trying to get behind a guy to deal damage, but it wouldn't let me pass him, and I got fucked. Enough of this bullshit already. There's a clip from Return of the Joker that perfectly sums up how I feel about this dog shit.
It'd be funny if it weren't so pathetic. No, what the heck, I'll laugh anyway.
These motherfuckers, right along with Titus, are like the anti-Rare of the Nintendo 64. Instead of making great games, they made horrible games that don't deserve to exist. By the way, it's worth noting that the PlayStation 1 version is not this bad. It turns out that Kemco has a real knack for turning bad games into horrible games. And because of that, Batman Beyond on the Nintendo 64 gets the final rating of Rest in Piss.